Welcome, ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Monday, the 8th of July. Good to have you aboard, part of the Believe Podcast Network, and presented as always by Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. If you're involved in any kind of an accident, I send you to our title sponsor, where you're going to be treated like family. Anidjar and Levine, accident attorneys, 800-747-FREE, 800-747-3733. Coming at you a little later today. I did Carlin versus Joe today, so if you want to go back and listen to that, wherever you're listening to ZASLOW Show 2.0 right now, wherever you get your podcast, get Carlin versus Joe. It was me and Chris Carlin today. I was filling in for our pal Joe Fortenbaugh. Go back and listen to that. Hit on all the big national topics. All right, you know what I'm talking about. Also, this morning, Driving the Line. I hosted Driving the Line. Everybody knows on Mondays, that's your sports betting brand of record, Driving the Line. I was in for my pal Jonathan Coachman. He's out doing the PGA Tour, so I filled in as host on Driving the Line today. YouTube.com/Driving the Line. Go check that out. Get all the winning MLB plays all throughout the evening tonight. And of course, Bet Online. That's your number one source for all your sports betting needs. Baseball, golf, soccer, all the big fights, MMA, boxing, WWE, every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino. Get in on a game of blackjack. Get on some poker. How about playing one of over 150 slot games? Head to the BetOnline website today. Get in on the action. Use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. BetOnline, the game starts here. So, got some fun stuff to get to here today. I hope everyone had a nice 4th of July weekend. I did as well. I worked the whole week. I worked Thursday, ESPN, Friday, ESPN, Sunday, ESPN, was off Saturday. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. I completed a stretch on ESPN, by the way, which I'm grateful for, and I hope you guys, ZASLOW Show 2.0 is number one, and I hope then you also listen to me on ESPN Radio. I had just completed a stretch of 17 out of 18 days on ESPN Radio. They've been really good to me. I appreciate that. I'm enjoying my time there. And it's great for our sponsors. If you're a new listener to ZASLOW Show 2.0, because you found me on ESPN Radio or on Driving the Line, whatever, I don't care which one, but now you're with us here at ZASLOW Show 2.0. That's huge. I'm glad to have you aboard. I love you long time. Great for our sponsors too. By the way, if you're, we're always looking to add one or two more sponsors. Got football. We're hot. We're so hot right now because of the Stanley Cup belonging to the Florida Panthers. You got the football right around the corner. Show's hot. If you're looking to, your business, small or large, whatever, if you think it could be a fit on ZASLOW Show 2.0, you could always hit me up. You can email me, jonathanzaslow@gmail.com, or you could DM me. My DMs are open, especially for the honeys, but you could DM me for sponsorship info as well. I'll allow it. So if you want to get on that, you can do that. Got some listener participation today from social media. We'll get to that coming up. But first, so, what we like to do, my wife and I? We love doing ZASLOW Family Movie Night. So last night, Sunday night, we did ZASLOW Family Movie Night with my older son. The younger one, he was doing like video games and stuff. So we like sometimes finding movies that we know that we love, that we believe that our son will like also. Now, it's hard finding movies, say, from the 90s. For instance, Pulp Fiction's my all-time favorite movie. I don't think my son's going to like it. I don't think it's going to hold. It holds up perfectly fine, but you got to consider Pulp, when you put on a movie like that, it looks different. It looks old to a 15-year-old kid. And put it in this perspective, right? Pulp Fiction was 30 years ago. I believe it was 1994. It's 30 years ago. It'd be like if in 1994, my dad wanted to show me a movie from 1964. I never would have wanted to watch that movie. So my son hates whenever I try to get him to watch a movie that's 25, 30 years old. So anyway, we try and find movies that we believe that he'll like. We came across You know what movie you're going to love? Taken. We watched Taken last night. ZASLOW family movie night. What a movie. I mean, just 90 minutes. You, you're in and you're out. You don't have to pay such deep attention. Not hard to figure out. Not complicated. Buddy's daughter gets kidnapped. He kills everybody. He gets her back. We're done. Great movie. So suffice it to say, he loved it. It's a great movie. Great idea for ZASLOW family movie night. But the thing is, this is what I noticed. So we put on the movie, and the first 10 or so minutes of the movie, I didn't even remember ever seeing. He goes to her party. It's her 17th birthday party. He buys her a karaoke machine, goes to the party. He's looking through pictures of her, stuff like that. I didn't even remember that part of the movie. Then he has the barbecue with his friends, and he's on the security detail for some famous singer. I didn't even remember this part. And then I realized, you know what? Think about this. Think about this. Because you're listening. You love the movie Taken. Think about this. Nobody puts on the movie Taken. You watch the movie Taken when you come across it. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody sits down and says, let's watch Taken. It just happens to be on TV, and then you put it on. You're like, oh, awesome. I can totally watch this. Great movie. Nobody starts Taken from the beginning. Nobody says, let's watch Taken. You catch Taken, and then you watch it. You catch it that it was on, and then you put it on once it's already started. And it's like, once I realized, yeah, that's why I don't remember the start of this movie. Now, of course, I've seen it from the start. I probably saw Taken in the theaters, but I do not remember the first 15, 20 minutes of the movie. Anyway, great movie. Also, do want to mention, watched season 3 of The Bear a couple of days ago. I love that show so much. And it's, I would say out of the 3 seasons, and season 4 is coming back next year, 2025. I love The Bear. I think it was the weakest of the 3 seasons. Season 2 is the best. I think it's the weakest of the 3 seasons. Great guest stars, all right? Which, by the way, I think it's in episode 7, maybe. John Cena as one of the facts. Unexpected. He was great. He's in 5 minutes. Really funny. But see, episode 5, I think it was, maybe 5 or 6 of The Bear, the one that was called Napkins. It's the Tina episode. The one where you get the background on Tina. And that was the best episode of the season. And the season, especially up to that point, so I think it was episode 6, needed that episode so bad. And what I mean by that was, I think the thing that we love about The Bear is the heart that the show has. And I didn't feel like it had that heart the first 5 episodes. It had the anxiety, it had the tension, but it didn't have the love. It didn't have the heart, especially because the whole season, Richie and Carmi hate each other. And there's no Claire. And it lacked the heart. It lacked the feel good. And so then finally you got that in the Tina episode, especially the scene with Tina and Michael when Michael hires her at the beef. So from that point on, I thought the second half of the season was much stronger than the first half because you had some good moments with heart like that in the final few episodes. But I think for the most part, the season lacked that. So I was really glad that we got that. And I also tweeted out over the weekend, the facts, oh my God, they were the real MVP of this season. They were so good. And yeah, very funny, obviously, at John Cena ends up being one of the facts. Really good stuff. Can't wait for season 4. Love Carmi. Love Richie. And again, and really, John Bernthal is so good at he plays Michael. I think he was just in the once. Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, in the episode that the sister gives birth. I mean, she's got to win an Emmy, right? For best guest starring role, right? Isn't that a category? She was amazing in the one episode she was in this season. And of course, the Fishes episode, the Christmas dinner episode last season is the greatest hour of television I've ever seen in my life. And Jamie Lee Curtis is unbelievable in this show. So anyway, The Bear, if you've never seen it, I'm jealous of you because I wish I've never seen it and I can just go back to season 1 and experience it. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the really important stuff. First, though, what's also important, guys, it's hurricane season. You got to make sure you're covered. You got to make sure you have the right homeowner's insurance. And that's why I send you to Brunt Insurance. I've been getting my homeowner's insurance from Brunt Insurance now for over a decade. And that's because I know I'm getting the best rate. And I know, God forbid, there's some type of disaster, a catastrophe, an accident with my home. I know that I'm going to be covered because Greg Brunt and his team at Brunt Insurance, they know your area wherever you're calling from. They have offices all throughout the state. So you could be calling from Pensacola all the way down to the Keys. Brunt Insurance has you covered. If you're looking for affordable care on, homeowners insurance, renters, condo insurance, you can't do it yourself. There's so many options out there. Your head's going to spin and then it's going to fall off. And then you don't have a head anymore. But you don't have to worry because at Brunt Insurance, they specialize in making all of these confusing options crystal clear, fully licensed staff. They're going to help you every step of the way. They're going to answer every question you have. You're going to practically be an insurance expert at the end of this. Call Brunt Insurance, 954-589-2204. You may be saying to yourself, Zaslow, I already have homeowners insurance. Call Brunt Insurance. You're going to get a better rate. 954-589-2204, bruntinsurance.com, 954-589-2204, bruntinsurance.com. So let's start here with your Miami Heat. Oh, actually, all right, I'll say that for a second. Let's start here with the Miami Heat. I know the Heat fan is frustrated, and this is where I got some participation from you guys. I love being able to ask a question like in the morning on social media. We can't take calls here. It's a podcast. This is the Zaslow Mansion Studios. It's not a radio studio, all right? So I can't take your calls. But I like having you guys part of the show. So we're going to get to you guys in a moment here. Now, the thing that is, and I understand your frustration, the thing that has struck me the most about the Miami Heat, who are now going on 2 straight off seasons, coming off an NBA Finals appearance, 2 straight off seasons where they've done nothing. They've done nothing. Now, I don't necessarily fault them because the CBA, the salary cap, it's so fucked. Most fans, and I know fans are so tired of hearing about a salary cap and a luxury tax and a first apron and a second apron. It's a major, I think the NBA's got a problem. I do. I don't find the NBA to be fan-friendly anymore. And it used to be fun where in the offseason, the NBA fan, all right, you got a salary cap, and if you go over the salary cap, there's luxury tax, and there you go. All right. Wasn't that complicated. Wasn't that hard to understand. Now, you need a degree in economics, and you need to minor in rocket science to be able to understand how the salary cap, how the CBA works. It is so unfan friendly. But I think that I know there are Heat fans out there, and I get it. Twitter, social media can be a bit of an echo chamber. But you think that the Heat are being cheap. Okay, first of all, the Heat have paid the luxury tax each of the last 2 seasons. They paid it 9 times total since its inception, which I think was in the mid-2000s. They paid the luxury tax each of the last 2 seasons. So this idea that they don't pay the luxury tax and the owner is cheap, you're wrong. It's misinformation. You are wrong. As far as them not wanting to go to the second apron, that's not because the owner's being cheap. That's because once you get to the second apron, there are so many rules where you cannot fix your team. You cannot improve your team. You cannot make adjustments. Zaslow, why does a team like the Celtics get to hand out hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts and they don't care about the second apron? Okay, great question. Glad you asked. They're keeping their own guys. It's Jason Tatum. It's Jaylen Brown. It's Derek White. They're signing to these massive hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts, right? You're allowed to go way over the cap, second apron, first apron, luxury tax, as high as you want when you're re-signing your own guys. Why aren't the Celtics afraid of the second apron? Because they don't need to make drastic roster changes or have maximum flexibility. They're so deep, their roster is so young that they're perfectly fine with this core group of guys. We're talking Brown, Tatum, Holiday, White, Porzingis. Like, you got those 5 guys. They're perfectly happy with them, and they'll, surround them with interchangeable pieces. A team like the Heat, their core group, they're guys who are locked up right now. Butler, Adebayo, Hero. They're not good enough to say, okay, we're not going to need any flexibility. We're not going to have to make any big changes to contend or continue to contend as a championship team. So the answer to your first question, why the Celtics can spend all this money in the Heat camp, the Celtics are re-signing their own guys. The Heat just did it with Bam Adebayo, all right? And the second part of that question is the Celtics don't care about the second apron because they don't believe they need flexibility. They just won the title. The Heat do believe they need flexibility. They were a play-in team. So I get it. Nobody wants to hear about the Heat and luxury tax and second aprons. It's very unfan-friendly minutia. Now, what I do find interesting about the way the Heat team build now and construct their roster, fill out their roster, compared to what they used to do really the first 20 plus years since Pat Riley got here in 1995. The way they operate in the past, the way they build their teams into a contender, how did they do that? Trades, free agency. Now, the way the Heat fill out their roster, build their team, look to contend, how do they do that? Draft and developing players. It's a stark contrast, a major difference between the way the Heat used to team build and the way they team build now. Adapt or die, right? You got to adjust, and that's what's happened. You used to be able to go all willy-nilly with trades, free agency, but especially when it came to trades and being able to build your team and, improve your team. Can't do it anymore. So the Heat front office, same front office, Arison family, Andy Ellisberg, Pat Riley. Now, I know it's a contingent of 5 of them. You throw Eric Spoelstra in there as well. But those 3 guys, Mickey Arison, Pat Riley, Andy Ellisberg, those 3 guys have been decision makers from the very beginning when Riley got here. You've added on since Nick Arison and Eric Spoelstra. But the way they used to do it, all trades, free agency. That's how we build our team. Now, drafting, developing players. It's a pretty stark contrast from what this team used to be about when it comes to team building. And look, I think you got to give them a little bit of credit. I know the Heat fan doesn't want to give the team any credit right now because you're angry, but you give them a little credit when it comes to adapting. Now, you got Jimmy, you got Bam, you want to include Tyler Hero, whatever. Jaquez Jr., Niko Jovic, they're clearly counting on those 2 guys. And now this year, I'm not getting worked up about Kel'el Ware. I know he looked amazing yesterday in the Summer League game. Can we be looking at him in a couple years from now as a major core piece? Maybe, but that's the way this team is now. You got a couple guys who you lock in as your major franchise guys, and for everybody you say, oh, the Heat don't care about draft picks, they don't develop guys. Well, actually, they care very much now about draft picks. They're really good at drafting guys, and they're probably the best in the league when it comes to developing players. So different with the way things used to be. Now, So the question that I asked you guys this morning, I like being able to get you guys to participate. What I asked you guys here this morning, I tweeted out, I understand the Heat fans' frustration, but what move/signing is out there that you believe they should have or could have made? Real simple. Easy way for me to get you guys to participate, to be able to participate in the show. So let's go over a bunch of these, all right? Nick's Hex chimes in with, if the Heat really are stuck with the roster, unable to improve it, isn't that the fault of the front office for putting themselves in the position with a roster that probably isn't quite good enough and no flexibility to improve? All right, there is a lot of truth to what you're saying there, for sure, all right? But it's not like you weren't going to keep Bam and extend him and give him the money. You're not going to let him leave. And there's not a whole lot of fault at what they paid Jimmy Butler so far. Now, are you going to want to fault them if they give him another max extension? Yeah, maybe. But the Jimmy Butler era, these last 5 years, it's been the second most successful 5-year stretch in the history of the franchise. So I really don't think you could fault them there. And look, you're upset about the Tyler Hero contract. You can't just let him leave when the time came to decide if you're going to extend him or not. You're hoping that eventually he's going to either A, grow into what you wanted, or B, you use that salary slot as a trade chip. So what you're saying, though, does have plenty of valid points. Yes, like they're in this spot because of previous moves, decisions that they made. Helicopter Dad says, patience doesn't come easy for Heat fans. Thankfully, the grown-ups are in charge. All right, so he's looking at it saying, hey, it's not like we haven't been successful recently. If we're going to have a down year, a couple down years, it's not the end of the world. Hernando says, Zaslow, it's been made clear that we're not getting a superstar, but at least someone who can ease the scoring load for Jimmy and Bam. I don't know that I trust Hero to do that. Let's not forget Terry Rozier. Like, Terry Rozier was doing fantastic before he got hurt and his season ended and we couldn't see him in the playoffs. Rozier is a big-time scorer. And what are Jaquez, what are Jovic going to look like? Bam Depoy says, trading for Trae Young right now. I would love to trade for Trae Young. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I especially think it'd be a lot of fun because, look, this has been the core for, 5 years now. That's a long time in the NBA. And I think the Heat fan feels like it's getting a little bit stale. And I understand that. So I'm not for making a change for the sake of making a change. But Trae Young's a good player. Now, he doesn't defend. He's really small. Trae Young's a good player. I think it'd be super exciting. I don't see it happening, though. Let's see. What's his Marpal's name here? Hot Take Harry. That's right. He says, it's a combination of not making any real moves for years, like I said, which has led to the team lacking assets while also either overpaying their own free agents or letting them walk for nothing while also taking absolutely no risks in trades that have put them in this sort of purgatory. Yeah, I think he makes a lot of good points. I think there has been the hesitancy of not taking risks in making trades. And the way I interpret that is the Heat are a stubborn organization. They are. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. I think this case is one of the times it's not. And what I mean by that is when they see something they want, be it in free agency or especially in trade, they put a price on it. They give it a value. And it's, all right, this is what we're willing to give up for this player. Come to our terms. We're not going to meet you on your terms. These are our terms. We're only going to do something. We're only going to make a move if it meets what we believe the value is. And I think when it comes to situations like that, I think they're stubborn to a fault where they're not willing to say up the ante a little bit. They're only willing to make moves when it's on their terms. Sometimes that's okay because you don't want to be bullied into making a trade. But sometimes you got to take a little bit of a risk and maybe give up a little bit more, maybe get a little bit uncomfortable in order to make the move that you want. And I don't think they do that anymore. So to Hot Take Harry's point there, I do think he makes a good point in that regard. Let's see. S. Roth says, ideally Trae Young, another Trae Young, reliable scoring and playmaking they've been missing, otherwise marketing. Two things on marketing. Number one, it's going to take way too much to get him. The Heat aren't going to be able to. And number two, Danny Ainge is not going to make a move with Pat Riley without Danny Ainge walking away from the deal feeling like he stuck it up Pat Riley's culo. So that's not going to happen. I mean, I just told you how the Heat are very stubborn when it comes to making trades and going over the value that they feel the player has. Danny Ainge is only going to make a move with Pat Riley if he feels like he stuck it up his culo. So the Heat are never going to do that. George Martinez says, I think the frustration has been their approach to asset management, not adapting to the new NBA in which to get stars, you need draft capital. They're stuck in the middle of the pack mentality and haven't shown the resolve that Riley had at the beginning. That's a little bit of what I just referred to, actually. Samuel says, you got to keep Jaime at all costs. Staying pat's the right move. Let everyone get healthy unless you can get marketing without giving up Jaime. All right, very measured approach there. George Large Espada says, I don't know enough ball to even comment about moves or players, but the fact that for 2 off seasons, they haven't done shit to improve suggests the owner is cheap, or they're resting on their laurels because of the middling success they've had. Not great. Well, I already gave the answer about the cheap part. They paid the luxury tax each of the last 2 years, and this past year, they were top 10 in spending. So when you do the whole owner is cheap part, it's ignorance. You're off base. Al says, doesn't even have to make a big move. How about just sensible roster construction? Can we get a real backup point guard so we don't have to rely on Jay Rich to do that, and maybe get a more mobile backup power forward who's about 6'8" or 6'9"? Finally, Gates, like Isaiah, says they need a lock-in Highsmith if they're trying to do something. Okay, so that's a good jumping off point here. Appreciate everyone's participation. They signed Haywood Highsmith earlier this afternoon. 2 years, $11 million. Really good value for the Heat. Haywood gets a major pay bump, and that's probably it now because it puts them right under the second apron, and they refuse to go over the second apron for the reasons that I told you, not for being cheap, for the reasons that I told you, because this team right now is not good enough to be a championship contender. So why would you put yourself in a position where you're not able to make roster moves in the future? That's obviously smart, even though you don't want to hear it. So yes, they re-signed Haywood Highsmith, which I think was a big deal, especially after losing Caleb Martin over the weekend. Speaking of Caleb Martin, so Caleb Martin signs with Philly for 4 years, $32 million. As it turns out, the Heat had offered him 5 years for $65 million. Now, that includes the final year of the deal that he opted out of, which would have paid him 1 for 7.8. So let's just round up to 8. The Heat essentially offered him, he took 4 years, $32 million from Philly, when the Heat offered him an extension of 4 years, $57 million. Totaling 5 years, $65. He took half from Philadelphia. Why did this happen? Well, apparently they met. They were negotiating. The Heat wanted to keep him. Caleb Martin's agent was insulted with the Heat offer. Thought on the open market they can get a whole lot more. The Heat were stunned, apparently. They opted out of the contract. The Heat were right. No one came close to offering what the Heat were willing to give Caleb Martin. And the best deal out there was 4 years, $32 million from Philadelphia. Caleb Martin and his agent now have egg on their face. Now, you may say, well, why didn't the Heat give 4 for 32? Once he opted out, they couldn't do it. They were able to offer him this extension because he was still on their team. They were then able to go over the, tax, however you want to call it. They were able to extend him for the money they offered. Once he opted out, that was it. It was over. The Heat can't do that now. This was a major, the Heat were right. Now it cost them, not their fault. It cost them Caleb Martin, and the agent was dead wrong and is likely going to get fired now. That's when you turn down 5 for 65 and take 4 for 32 because you thought the market was going to give you something different, you usually get fired. That's what's going to wind up happening here with Caleb Martin. Sucks for the Heat. Sucks for Caleb. Nobody won in this situation except for Philadelphia. The Sixers were a very big winner in this spot. That's how you build a championship team. You got your core guys, and then you get the great values around them. And they got tremendous value with Caleb Martin. Philadelphia is a huge all-season winner now. I understand it boils down to Joel Embiid, but this was a major move for Philadelphia, major value play. The Heat did nothing wrong. The Heat suffered because the agent screwed up, and the agent's going to wind up being fired now. Unfortunately, it hurts Caleb. It also hurts the Miami Heat in a very big way. I think I got a couple more. I don't want to leave you guys out because you do such a good job by participating. So let me see if I can get a couple more of your questions in here. All right, let's see. The Locks says, the last spot, Highsmith back for wing defense or a point guard. Well, Highsmith, that's what I would have said even if we didn't know at this point that they re-signed him. Mr. Giovanni says, I would have taken a bag of chips and some bum past his prime over any of these two-way contracts. I don't know what to tell you there, though. Like, the two-way contracts, I already did tell you. Like, the Heat aren't able to sign some of those guys because they don't have the money to. They can't go over the second apron. the two-way contracts are minimal type deals. Like, there's not a lot of wiggle room there. There's nothing to do about it. And of course, our pal Mike in West Palm Beach says he would have preferred them trade for Curry, of course. I'm with you, man. Trade for Steph Curry. That's probably that's a needle mover. That'd have been a big time move. You know what else is a big time move, guys? Look, it's the summer. There are all kinds of great deals out there on getting a new car. And I send you the only car dealership we endorse here on ZASLOW Show 2.0, North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. At North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, right now, you got the summer sales event going on. Incredible offers on all new Subarus in stock, as well as every pre-owned vehicle on their lot. You can enjoy a fully indoor, that's key, it's so hot out, indoor shopping experience, perfect for this hot summer. Right now at North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, make zero down payment, make zero payment for 3 months, zero security deposit, plus you get 0% APR financing on featured new Subarus. How about 0% APR available up to 72 months on a Subaru Solterra, or lease it for just $329 a month for 36 months with zero down, or lease the Subaru Crosstrek just $219 a month for 36 months with $59.95 due at signing. All offers with approved credit. Go to nflsubaru.com. That's nflsubaru.com for full details. Indoor. That's right. It's so hot out. Take advantage of all these hot deals inside while you're keeping cool. Don't miss the summer sales event going on all month long at North Fort Lauderdale Subaru. North Fort Lauderdale Subaru, the location you know with an experience you'll love.